We thank you all for the effort that you've made to come and join us for the Meet the Owners event this evening. And we'd first of all like to welcome our top table. We'll start nearest to my good self. We have our first team manager, of course, Grant McCann. Next to Grant is the... Grant, I wasn't wishing to stifle any applause there. I was just looking for some collective ones at the end. But anyway, Chief Executive, of course, is Mr. Gavin Baldwin. Our chairman, what's going to come next, is Mr. David Blunt. Lording his way around the room. Our vice chairman is Mr. Andrew Watson. And club director, Mr. Terry Bramall. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, there is our top table this evening. Can we just take a moment in which to switch phones to off or to silent for the duration of our evening tonight. We also have in attendance with us tonight senior members from throughout, should I say, the Club Doncaster umbrella. That's the foundation that are with us. We've got Ding representing centre plate. We've got a phone going off there. And we've also got Cal Hall with us as well, and whilst Cal is here, I think congratulations are in order to Cal for putting on a fantastic bid, of course, and getting 3 games here for the forthcoming Rugby League World Cup. But also on the eve of another season for the Dons, so we wish Cal the very, very best wishes for the forthcoming season and for their launch event on Saturday night, which I couldn't make. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, of course, tonight the floor is yours to ask all the questions that you would like. I'm sure we're all in a very, very good frame of mind. It's a very, very good time to be a Rovers fan. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a statement to read out for you. This is a club statement, and I'd like everybody to listen and take heed of this very, very carefully indeed. Following Niall Mason pleading guilty last week, an internal process is now underway. This process does involve external parties, and therefore the club cannot comment on the timescales of when that process will be completed. Please rest assured, when the process is concluded, the club will release a statement, but until that time we are unable to do so for a number of reasons, and therefore cannot answer any questions regarding Niall or the incident that night. So ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you take that into consideration. We will not be taking any questions on that. I'm sure there's lots and lots of other things you can be asking questions on during the course of the evening. Just also to mark your card as far as what literature is on your chairs, you will see the impact report that is published from the Club Doncaster Foundation. There's a fantastic forward from Jim Lord in there that keeps you up to date with all the facts and figures and all the activity that's been going on throughout the foundation and the great work that they do. So that's the information on your seats right now. Before we start taking questions from the floor, I'm going to turn to our manager, to Grant. Grant, lovely to see you this evening. Thank you very much for your time. Your first 6 months at the football club, how do you reflect on that so far?
Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. You know, they're a tremendous bunch of players to work with on an everyday level, really. A real drive to improve, a real drive to get better, a real drive to win. And I think it's going okay at the minute. We're doing all right, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, there's nothing won in January or February, is there? It's what comes in May that really counts.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've got 2 very important league games coming up, starting Saturday, and our focus is only on that. That's it. Nothing else. There may be other things going on in FA Cup and things in the background, but focus is sheerly on Peterborough Saturday and trying to get the job done.
And results really have, been very, very consistent. If we have had a setback, we've really, bounced back in the correct way, and that really must, give you good heart moving forward.
Hello. I think the most important thing has been the consistency of the performances. Yes, we've had setbacks. We said this in the last time we met, that there was going to be bumps in the road, but how we're going to react to it. And I think as a group they've showed that their consistency in their performance has been first class, and I think that comes from every day and how they approach training every day. and the togetherness they've shown right up to this date.
And certainly around the club, there's a really good feeling amongst the supporters. There's a real good feel factor. You know, people have got smiles on their faces, but you know, from day one, the supporters have been first class this season, haven't they?
Well, we couldn't do it without the supporters. It's as simple as that. They've been outstanding all season, home and away. The boys love, you know, as many at the keep mode as possible. I think we've turned our home form a little bit, definitely over the last 8 games, probably from the Sunderland game when we lost here. Possibly should have won, to be honest. But we've turned it into a bit of a fortress, and we want to try and keep it like that to the end of the season.
Fantastic. Grant, thanks very much for your thoughts. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions to answer this evening, and if we don't get a chance, very best wishes for this coming Saturday. Before we start opening the floor to questions, we're delighted to be joined by Karen, who is our signer this evening for the Hard of Hearing, so I'm sure Karen will do a fantastic job for those joining us this evening. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to pop your hands up in the air if you have any questions that you'd like to put to any members of our top table this evening. As always, it's ladies first. Here we go, my love. Your name and who's your question for?
It's Sheila, and it's for Grant. First of all, congratulations. Been some beautiful football played. Really enjoyed it. But I'm now worried a bit about the low knees that we've got. Is there any chance of keeping any on after the season finishes? Do you know at all?
At this point, no, we don't know. The low knee system has worked really well for us this year in terms of we've had some, probably the 2 to mention that's been here most of the season, Malik and Herbie. And we're building real good connections with these sort of clubs, i.e. Liverpool, Leeds. Just the other day, a big Premier League club phoned me about 3 of their top players wanted to come to us. But I've said it along, I'm happy with the squad we've got. And I think it's important we build those rapports with Premier League clubs, good Championship clubs. Ideally, we'd want to have our own players, of course, and we're building towards that. But if we can get maybe 1 or 2 players from a Liverpool or a Tottenham or an Arsenal, and they're going to help us and improve us as a squad, then we'll do that. But I agree with you, you know, the loans have been good. If we could keep Malik and Herbie and people that got next season, then great. But
how about Paul Downing?
Yeah, Paul's been excellent. Paul's been excellent. And you know, he's again, I think the reputation that we're setting now with how well the loans have done, people are actually phoning us and asking to take our players. So it's nice. It's nice in a way that they want to come here, but we have to get the balance of the squad right first.
Yeah, but really well done, because they are playing well. Mind, once or twice I'd like to get on and belt 1 or 2 of them on the arm. When they fall asleep towards the end of the game.
We appreciate your support.
But I wouldn't hit little Alfie.
Enough of the little view. Good evening. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's David. It's whoever it entails. Right. It won't be saying we have a moan from me, Gavin, would it? But it comes about by all the interviews that you do. A lot of them are absolutely disgusting. You can't understand a word they're saying. There's too much background noise. There's too much interference with the mic. It's terrible when you listen to them. If you listen to them back, they're absolutely disgusting.
Is this iFollow you're talking about? Okay. Can I look to Luke to answer at the back, please, so we can see where you answer.
The easy answer is that we're getting some new equipment which will help. You'll see a real difference between home games, where we control the environment, where it's pretty clear. You can hear everything that Grant and the players say. When it's an away match, we have absolutely no control over where we do those press conferences. So when you've got, we're usually pitch side, and you know, we struggle with that because we don't have the kind of equipment Sky Sports, etc. have. So we are getting some new equipment which will help, but really I think you'll see a real difference between the home press conferences, where it's really good quality, you can hear nice and clear. We've tried different things as well. So for the last away game at Portsmouth, I thought that worked really well, hopefully you think the same. I said we are getting new equipment which will help, but for the away games, it's really outside of control where we actually do the press conference, which is why you sometimes get the conditions or people on the pitch outside of that.
I mean, sometimes it's like Brands Hatch with mowers going up and down. You can't do what
Yeah, and that's really frustrating because we cannot control that for the away games. We do try, we'll move Grant to one side so we're away from that. We point away from that as much as we can, but for the away games, it's a bit of a constant battle, honestly.
Thank you, Lou. Thanks for explaining that through there. Okay, we'll try and look to different areas of the room now for more questions. Gentlemen, I'll come back to you next, sir. Okay. This gentleman was first out of the box there. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Steve. It's for Mr. McCann. The way you play football now, we leave the wingers open and we're susceptible to crosses. What's the idea of that?
I think we've got very good centre halves who can deal with it, first and foremost. We've got 2, 3, 4 fullbacks who can defend 1v1. And we take a chance. We're brave on it. We use our wide players as outlets when we receive the ball back. We use our centre forward to run in behind teams. I'm not one for bringing everybody back and having everyone behind the ball. We like to be brave in the way we play. We coach in that. We mould in that every single day. Yes, we may be suspect to a cross coming in our box, but we're also suspect for hitting teams in the break. So I think it works both ways.
Okay, fair enough. Next question is for board. Stewarding on the south stand. Away games we go to, we get told to sit down, and if we don't, get told 2 or 3 times, next time you're roofed. Why don't our stewards do that in the south stand, as they are in the Oldham game for the week, where everybody was standing up at the back and nobody could see, and no steward come up and move them at anything?
Jonathan, can we get the mic to Marie, and then I'll pick it backwards.
Yeah, so to try and answer your question, it's often about a dynamic risk assessment of the safety of the supporters and the stewards in that area. So if there are large numbers of people persistently standing, we've got to take a decision whether sending stewards into the middle of those people for non-compliance. Do you throw 20 of our own fans out, or do you try and manage that situation the best that you can? That decision has to be made there and then at the match, depending on the temperament of the game, dependent on the number of supporters that's being affected, and what impact it would have on actually asking those supporters to leave. So it's a lot more complex than just sort of going in there and starting to sort of throw people out. It's not the approach that we like to take as a club. Whilst I do take on board that that may have affected certain people's enjoyment of the match, we try and accommodate everybody as best we can and the different needs that people have at a game. And yeah, I take on board with Oldham in particular. It was a very challenging match in terms of the supporters and how we managed that safely. So I did speak to the safety officer after the match. He was confident in the way that the stewards did manage that within the best of their abilities to manage that as safely as possible, and that has to be our primary concern.
Did you want to come back with anything there? You all right? Do you wish to add to that?
Every other club we've been to, we get told 3 times, the 3rd time you're out. And you're upsetting a lot of people in that south stand, especially from maybe Rose End backwards.
I'm more than happy to meet with you afterwards and potentially with the safety officer. If you're at the match on Saturday, Peterborough, we're happy to meet with you and discuss the different parameters that go into that. I do think away fans get treated differently at clubs. There is a management of our own fans, and everybody's there to support the club. We want to encourage that. I think you will find at any club there's an area of persistent standing, and there's a need for us as a club to manage that safely. Again, as I say, it is quite complex, and I'm happy to meet with you to discuss it further.
Thanks a lot, Marie. Okay, we're going to promised this gentleman a question here, so don't worry, we'll get around to everybody. Good evening, sir. What's your name? Who's your question for?
Good evening. My name's Steve. Questions for Terry. Could I first of all, on behalf of all the supporters, thank you and your co-directors for helping to support the club again with the finances that you do. Thank you very much. My question is that we've got the big supporter in now, the big sponsor for the shirts, the LNER, as compared to the smaller ones that we've had, the local ones in the past, the sort of one crore and so on. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that, and are they likely to renew for next year as well?
Well, first of all, I think we're still in negotiations on that. But we have...
My apologies. I'm not used to getting a question. It's quite a treat, really, not to have to interrupt somebody else. No, I'm really pleased that we've had LNER. I'm hoping we'll get, we'll have them again, and at least, if not, we can't improve upon that. But, these are national organisations. When Andy's dad and I, responded to the call to come and help the club, we did, because the town's been was very good to keep Mo, to Dick and myself, and that's why we've kept putting the money in and working hard to develop this club, and I think we're developing it from top to bottom. Fantastic having a manager like Grant now and getting the performance on the pitch, and we've got managers like Grant throughout the organisation, and we're making this a real club now from top to toe, and you could draw the structure, you could see the activity, and it's making waves. People are listening and hearing, and that's why I think we're getting these sponsors, and it will do for Doncaster, exactly what we thought. It's been a big challenge, Doncaster, and I don't know why, truthfully. I was born here and I love the place, and I see its potential. And I don't think, that's not been overexploited yet. We've got to keep working at it. And today, I work on it through this club with my colleagues to do that. And performance on the pitch is one thing. Performance in all the other areas is something that will enable this club to grow and be sustainable. And I'm as thrilled where we are today. I'm absolutely thrilled. I think for me, it's the best season we've had. We won't necessarily finish with the cups that we've had before or the promotions, but I think, we're 5/8, 3/4 the way through, and I think we're just having a great season. I'm loving it. I hope you are too.
Terry, thank you for those thoughts. Off the back of that, I'm actually going to turn to our head of commercial, John Warburton, who would just like to, to add a few more bits and pieces to that. John, you're closer to everything as far as commercial activities go as well.
Yeah, of course, obviously to address the question that was asked, getting LNER to come to Doncaster a couple of years ago was a massive coup for the club, and I suppose speaks volumes for what this club and what this town is all about. I think there's no surprise that Doncaster Rovers and Club Doncaster are enjoying a spell where the business community in Doncaster is thriving as well, and we're obviously benefiting from that. So getting LNER as a starting point, and you make the point of them specifically, but I think apart from that, you look at a lot of the other partners that are Doncaster based and national and some international companies that choose to try and pursue their business objectives through little old Doncaster Rovers, and that's what we've done. We've managed to grow our club to a level where we are genuinely seen as a huge player in the business market. So the club, the board, the fans can all take a hell of a lot of pride in that. And in terms of LNER, in terms of next season, We're in the final stages of securing the allotment of shirt sponsors for next year. You'll just have to wait and see who that's going to be.
Ooh, suspense. It's not quite killing us all, but you know. Right, okay, thanks a lot for that, John. We're going to go across to this side of the room now. Good evening, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
Hi, Jonathan. My name's Bob, and it's a question for the board in general, or the manager and the CEO. The Guard of Honour regularly gets drowned. I thought there was a state-of-art irrigation system on here, but it seems every week that the kids are going to end up for an hour and a half wet through, thanks to whoever controls the watering system.
So it's the water in the pitch pre-match, obviously when the players have gone back in after the final warm-up and just before they come out for the respect handshake, the sprinklers, well, I've been here a few times, but nobody's worried about me, I can promise you that. So I think what you're getting at is the timing of the sprinklers coming on and the geography of the children getting wet, the flag bearers who welcome the teams out. So obviously you're concerned for the children being wet and getting jammed. If I can take that on board before anybody else handles it, obviously I'm stood there. We do try and give the children, you know, prior warning and try and marshal them out of the way, as Mark Huseman's with us in the audience this evening. So we do try and marshal them out of the way and try and get them, you know, to a safe area as far as not getting wet. It's juggling priorities in one respect.
The other day, the players got wet. The players were whittling the ground and turn them off. They were all getting wet because there was still the sprinklers were still on when the teams were doing the handshakes.
The idea of water in the pitch, and you'll see it watered 4 or 5 times. It's obviously, you know, to make sure that the playing conditions are, you know, to the level of what the players want and the management want as well. But obviously, it's worth having a word with the ground staff, and we will, you know, forward your comments as far as that goes. Thank you very much for your question. Okay, we'll move across now. Dave's hands up going, hand keeps going up. Come on, what are you going to ask now? Quick.
Well, it's no disrespect to the man at the back, but I think if we make our fans that stand at the back sit down, I think we'll lose a lot of our atmosphere. And if he's sat behind them, he's outside ground, I'm afraid, because they're all at the back and they stand up, they're not listening to anybody. Now, if they stood at front, I would complain myself. But there's a section there that's been there since we got to the stadium, and everybody knows that the people there stand up. Now, I'm an old sod myself, but I don't object to a bit of noise in around it, adds to it. So, that's my...
Right, okay, not too far to go for our next question. This gentleman next to me here, what's your name and who's your question for?
Hi, it's Johnny. I was just going to counter that cop guy back there saying that about people should be sat down. I mean, atmosphere is quite flat, it is most of the time. Obviously, Oldham game were brilliant. I'm not ashamed to say that I stand up for 90 minutes. I don't cause anybody harm there, but more people that stand up for me, the better, because we need a better atmosphere in that ground. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but what we don't want against Crystal Palace is 3,800 Palace fans stood up for 90 minutes singing and being alive in for 3/4 of the ground, do we?
Well, I think it's something which has been kicked around a lot in recent years. It's the calling for safe standing, but I think that's possibly for another time. We'll go to this gentleman here. Good evening, sir. What's your name? Who's your question for?
It's Brian for Gavin. Gavin, have we more or less reached the top of our commercial earnings for around the ground, or do you think that we can still get a lot more out of it?
I think John needs to do a lot more.
Get me that
I'll let John speak as well, but just as a culture of the club, how these guys from Keepmo, when they worked at Keepmo, work was all about developing value and recognising the value that we've created. And where I get a bit prickly is when, you know, we say, do we sell sponsorship? We don't sell sponsorship anymore, we sell partnerships. So LNER, for example, if they renew with us, it's because they're doing very well from the relationship and we're trying to provide them a service. It's not a pure cost to them, because what we'll try and do through the DNA card is generate people on the trains. numbers on the trains that they otherwise wouldn't have had. So, from my point of view, the commercial revenue, we're already working on significant improvements in the short term, medium, long term, and this is where these guys have taught the whole team, the management team, from the start about recognising the value of what we do, but also creating the values. And part of creating value is not being arrogant and saying, do you want to sponsor Doncaster Rovers? It's what can we do for you? And at the end of the year, demonstrating the value of what we've done. I'll let John talk specifically about some of the increased value that he's looking at, but the answer is significant difference. We do benchmark with other clubs in the league, and obviously the leagues above us, and believe that we're performing very well. But from our point of view, the more money that we generate, which obviously comes under the stadium, the better team we can have on the pitch. And that's the whole culture of what we try to create. So John, I'll let you give some detail.
Advertising boards start from £500 plus that, if you're interested. So, yeah, I suppose to add to what Gavin just said, we will, the strategy that we will put in place is that even once we've sold out, we've still got all of that to sell again, and that's the way that any sort of progressive club will work commercially. So we've got a strategy in place for what we're trying to achieve over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, which will see the club go forward and make more money, which ultimately is about performing on the pitch. So any money that we do acquire for the club commercially is here to make Doncaster Rovers Football Club and Doncaster Rugby League Football Club and all of its sort of commercial acumens better day by day. But yeah, like I say, as soon as the current strategy that we've got is cyclical because it just keeps on going. As soon as we've achieved one thing, we want to achieve the next thing. So there's, as I'm sure you all can appreciate from having Gavin Baldwin at the top of this company, there's no backslapping. It's straight on to what we're going to achieve next, and that is the case commercially as it is in all of the departments of this football club.
Thanks a lot, John. I do believe Marie would like to add a little more to that as well.
Yeah, just, I mean, to echo what John said, that, you know, I think where we're quite different as a club and an organisation is operations and commercial work really well together. Most of the time. But what we do well as a club is it's not just football, it's not just sport. We do a lot. We're 7 days a week. We've got car boot sales on Sunday here. We've got contract parking running in the car park, so that basically we're trying to use the facilities and the assets that we've got to generate income for the club 7 days a week. And that's something that I think we're really strong at, and it's something that we're continually looking to progress with. You know, new and innovative events and commercial deals that work in partnership for both the benefit of the football clubs through the partnerships, but then also for the benefit that I get in terms of managing the facilities. The deal with Algier, for example, our waste management and recycling will all be coming through Algier. We're going to be working in partnership to try and reduce our footprint in terms of the waste that we produce as a stadium, and try to be really innovative and bring something back into Doncaster. So it's a really well-rounded approach that I think we take.
Thanks a lot for that, Marie. Okay, we'll make our way across here now. We've got a question from this gentleman here, very eager to put it forward. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
My name's Nick, and it's a question for Grant. Grant, I'll ask you a question about James Coppinger. We've had him for like forever, and it's the first time he's ever scored a diving header in 600 games. I mean, could you speak about James Coppinger for a minute or two, please?
James Coppinger has been great since I first came in the building, really. And it was obviously a good goal he scored. I didn't know he had never scored a diving header before. I think everyone was quite surprised by it, really. Well, the lads were anyway. But he's been great. I mean, he's a legend there, isn't he? And he's still performing to a high level, which is incredible for a 38-year-old. But he does everything right from the minute he comes in the building to the minute he leaves, and he's a credit to himself and his family. They keep going, you know, at 38 years of age, really.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your question. Got gentleman here. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
My name's Alan. Good evening. Can I change tack slightly? And that direct a question to the board concerning Doncaster Rovers Bells, Doncaster's iconic women's football team. As we know, the Bells have been through a torrid time recently, being denied promotion to the top flight last summer, losing the major sponsor, manager Neil Redfern and the entire first team squad, and subsequently having to self-relegate to the third tier, whereby footballing rights, they should be in the top tier of women's football. They now play with the development squad as a first team out at Rosso, and it would be a miracle if they avoid further relegation. The national and local profiles all but disappeared. Last summer, Club Doncaster stated it would be still supportive to the Bells through their troubles. So my question to the board is, what future plan does Club Doncaster Rovers have to work with Doncaster Rovers Bells so that the club that shares Doncaster Rovers names can regain their status as a top women's football club?
I'll pick up initially, and please take my answer in the spirit that it's meant. We have been talking today with the Bells, very positive conversations, and we expect to make an announcement soon. It's difficult to talk in more detail than that because the conversations were literally this afternoon. The chairman and myself, David, were talking, and we've since communicated with the wider board as regards a recommendation going forward. So without saying too much, we've assisted this year. You know, we provide training facilities, we provide office space, you know, guidance with physio, for instance. We've tried it in any way we can, whilst we've had more formal conversations. The board again, and Terry talked about, you know, that Doncaster's been good to the board. Well, the board have also been good to Doncaster because their commitment is they want to protect the legacy of the Bells, and they want the Bells to thrive going forward. And therefore they've allowed me to have the discussions with them that hopefully will end up with a positive outcome that we will make public very soon.
Thanks a lot, Gavin. Another question from this gentleman here, sir.
Hi, my name's Frank. I'd like to ask about the youth stroke academy teams. It's not a criticism, but how come we don't seem as successful as, say, Barnsley at bringing young players through who end up in our first team?
Well, I think I can only speak from since I've been here, and I think we're starting to create a really good 23s group. If you look onto the first team, people like Longbottom, Waters, Pryor, AJ Greaves, Bucock, I could go on really. Gibbons, Amos, Horton, Jones. So if you look under that, we're almost creating a 23s group in its own right for next season. And I think over time, over the next 12 months or so, I think you'll see a few of them starting to appear in our first team. Reeves Bucock came on in the first team this year. He's a second-year scholar. Brandon Horton's been on the bench. Danny Amos has been on the bench. Jones has been on the bench. Marion Gibbons has been involved in the first team. So I think we are starting to create a real culture of development and a clear pathway of getting into our first team. And it's something that burns deep in me really. It is getting young boys into our first team and experiencing that.
Great, thanks for your question, Frank. And I'm firmly raised to hear from this nice lady. What's your name?
Lorna. I just wanted to ask what Grant, tongue-in-cheek, would do with the prize money.
From the FA Cup.
Any plans?
Have I got any plans? No. I've just spilled the coffee over my car and it's cost me 850 quid today. So I might ask Gavin for a check later. No, honestly, in all seriousness, I think we're trying to improve a little bit in terms of what we've got on an everyday level. The board have been very kind in getting us a couple of watt bikes at the gym. The players will know what they are. They'll be in the training ground in the next few days to help us on an everyday level. And we're delighted with what we've got in the squad. We don't need to go silly and because we've got a few quid go and buy this and that and the other. You know, everything's sustainable anyway. It'll add to what the club's already got. So we're really pleased.
Can I just pick up on that as well? The business model of Club Doncaster demonstrates that football still loses considerable monies, and being props, realistic, a good cup run nowhere near covers those monies, which is why these guys had to dig so deep in the past. What we have got, again, is the business model of Club Doncaster, and Marie alluded to it earlier. whereby you've got football that loses money, you've got Club Doncaster that generates money, the stadium generates money, the foundation, which is a break-even charitable organisation that obviously breaks even, and the Dons that break even. Our challenge through commercial, through car boots, through events, through marathon events, for instance, is to generate enough money over here that means that we could support the football over here, because that's the challenge, and that's why these guys have had to dig so deep, because football traditionally loses a lot of money. We've got the advantage of Club Doncaster to cover some of the losses, but these guys have still put considerable monies in this year. So it wouldn't be fair and it wouldn't be right to think that because we've had a cup run, football has in any way, shape or form covered its costs. It hasn't. However, we have had a meeting today with the chairman and recommendation going to the wider board on investing in the team for next season. We're already talking about that. We're talking about commitments and as Grant alluded, we're looking at the facilities at the training grounds such as the gym, etc., etc. So those conversations are going on, but I did want to be honest to say that cup monies do not mean that all of a sudden football is rolling in money.
Great stuff, thank you very much for that, Gavin. Okay, who's going to be next with a question? We've got two gentlemen very keen. Going to come to this gentleman first. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
My name is Bert. Just a supplementary on the water in the ground. Many of us have been coming for many years, and of course Rovers have always had a good playing surface. What is it nowadays that says that it's better to water it as much as they do? How does it change things?
Well, we like the pitch as wet as possible. The players will say the same thing. If it's dry, if it's the ball doesn't run as quickly as we want to play the game. Some teams in our league would like a dry pitch because they don't play football. Us, we like the pitch to be wet, and we like the ball to move quickly, so our players can get into better positions and they can move quicker with the ball. So it's the speed of play, the speed of the ball, and that's basically it.
It is basically a recent thing.
No, it's not. I don't think it's. Well, I don't know what it's been like here, but
the last 5 years or so. I mean, 20 years ago, we never thought about watering the pitch before.
Yeah,
the speed of movement of the ball.
I mean, I can remember it for as long as I've been playing. The pitch is always better when it's wet, so it's much better when it's zippy and the ball moves quickly, especially for the players that we've got. Definitely.
Okay, I'll come back to you, sir, because this gentleman had his hand up. Coming back to you once again.
Ryan, for Andrew. You've been with the club a little while now, and you took over in sad circumstances, I know, but are you enjoying it?
Well, yes, absolutely, yes. I've been here longer than you probably think. I mean, we first, alongside Terry, 2006, so we've been here a while now. And I've been a director for, I think, for 11 of those years. Obviously, then most to vice chairman, and taken on a more involved role since my dad died. But yes, absolutely enjoy it. Yes, enjoy the Club Doncaster side, the business side of things, the football on a day-to-day basis. Love it. Love going to the training ground to meet Grant, meet the players. Obviously enjoy the excitement of winning matches, being there on match day. My nerves aren't great, I must admit. It's if anyone sees me the last sort of 2-3 minutes of a match, I'm up and down the corridor. And the recent late goals haven't helped that. But absolutely love it, yes, and the whole family love it. It's not just me, it's my lad, he plays in the elite development. My mum enjoys it. The whole family, my sister and her husband go all over the country following them. They were in Portsmouth last weekend. So it's great fun. Yes. Obviously the financial side is it's different now since Dad died. There are extra pressures on the family. But we're here. We have been here long term, and we're still going to be here. And obviously as the initiatives that are led by David and Gavin, and which are generating more income, gradually reducing the deficit and the monies that we have to put in. But we're still here, and we'll still be here. So it's great fun, yes, we love it, we're Doncaster people, as I think I've said many times before, we support the club, and it's in there, isn't it? It's, and you look at the matches we've had, you know, Portsmouth, you know, we've got Peterborough with Darren coming back, what an exciting match. Then you've got, obviously we've got Southend, those two games are crucial, aren't they? You know, if you can win those two, suddenly you're catapulted into 5th or 6th with games in hand. Not putting any pressure on. And then obviously the cup game, you know, it's Scunthorpe and Barnsley, it's great. Charlton, you know, what matches to have, what an exciting run. So yes, absolutely do enjoy it, yes. Thanks for the question.
Okay, moving on to our next question now as we enter the final 15 minutes or so of our questions from the floor. So now is the time to think of your question if you wish to put one to our top table. We've got a question over here from this gentleman doing his own work as well. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
Hi, my name is Rob Clark. It's a question for David, I guess. When Darren left in the close season and Grant came in, there was lots of talk about budgets, etc. at the club and lots of speculation. And really, without any additional budget that's been announced, Grant's done fantastically well. So, can you just give us what your impressions of that are, please?
Yeah, well, certainly there's no ill feeling between Darren and ourselves. And I think why he left, I'm not 100% certain, if I'm perfectly honest. I think he's well documented. He had issues with his father, and he was looking after his father and needed to, I think, spend more time around that. And he's gone, as we all know, to Peterborough, and hopefully we can turn him over on Saturday with a bit of luck. But no ill feeling at all, and I wish him all the best in going forward. Regarding the budget, I think there's been a bit of misnomer about that, because wasn't the case. I spoke to Darren with Gavin about 3 or 4 weeks before he left, and we left on good terms. We discussed the finances of the football club as well, and it came with a bit of a shock out of the blue, to be perfectly frank. But we are where we are, and we've obviously done pretty good, haven't we? I think in the recruitment process, it was a process that Terry, Andy and Gavin have experienced before. It takes a bit of time, and I know it can build up a bit of frustration as well in terms of timetable. But we wanted to try to do the best for the club, and hopefully, well, we obviously have done pretty good at this point in time. Regarding going forward, we've had a meeting with Grant, and we've gone through all the requirements that he thinks to make us a better club next year than this year, and I think we can satisfy all the finances that are needed to achieve that objective. We aren't trying to put any pressure on any of the players and put any pressure on Grant, because that's now what we want to work like. I want to work as a team going forward and be pleasantly happy with the achievement that we're hopefully going to get from it as well. And I would also like to say, from the players, and I know John's at the back of the audience today, and you know, there's been some inquiries about lots of our players, and understandably why, and John's been fantastic in showing his loyalty to this football club. So a really big thank you, John, in that respect.
Blushing as well.
Yeah, just when you're crying. He's got tears in his eyes.
Lovely. Right, okay, who's next up? We're all a bit warm in here tonight.
Yeah.
Better than being cold. Okay, right, gentleman on the front row. There you go, sir.
My name's John, and this is for Grant. I'm a great believer in aiming at the top 2 for automatic promotion. Most of the fans seem to talk about the playoffs, and so do the media and sometimes the club itself. I think you've got a similar view to me. My question is, what's the attitude of the players towards this? Are they aiming for the top 2 or just simply the playoffs?
We're aiming as high as we can. as high as we can. I said it right when I first come in. We'll aim for the stars, and if we don't quite get there, then we've done okay. And that hasn't changed. So the top 2 is still within our reach. I firmly believe that. We've still got to play people up and around us as the season goes on. But we've just got to take care of our business. We've got to take care of our own results. Not get too distracted by what's going on elsewhere. We've been on a decent run, probably the last 16 games. I think we've only lost twice, including all the cup games. So the consistency levels have been good. But I agree with you 100%. We'll be aiming for as high as we can, definitely.
Lovely, thank you, Grant. Okay, who's next with a question for our top table tonight? We're going to go back and revisit a gentleman we heard from earlier on.
To Grant, can we just have an injury update, please, on Ben Whiteman and Joe Wright, please?
Joe's fit. We'll see how he is for the weekend. Ben's fit, so everybody's good. Obviously, just Ian Laura is the one that we're going to miss for the rest of the season, which was a big blow for us. But we've got a really healthy group, really. It's it's a credit to the medical team and sports science department for keeping everyone in this condition at this stage of the season. Really.
Lovely, thank you very much for that update, Grant. We'll go back to the gentleman we're hearing quite a lot from now.
Forget me for Grant, he might not want to answer this, but when we go in the playoffs from the conference, Dave Penny more or less chose who he was going to play in the semi-final because he didn't want to play Chester in a one-off game. Would you, if we were in a position where you could do that, would you be prepared to pick who we played by probably losing the game?
I don't understand the question. Say it again.
When we was in the conference, Dave Penny was the manager, and he chose not to play Chester in a one-off game at Wembley. He wanted to play them in the semi-final. Would you be prepared to do that if you thought there was an advantage in it?
No, because I think we'd beat any of them. That's my opinion. I've got firm belief in this group that whether it's Sunderland, Charlton, Barnsley, Peterborough, whoever it may be, we'll beat any of them over a two-legged game, that's for sure. I've got a real belief in that group. Secondly, just to follow up on that question, hopefully we're not in the playoffs anyway. Hopefully we're chasing the top 2 and then we go up automatically.
It's Bert again. You mentioned the players' fitness. We're all very concerned about Tommy Rowe. Obviously, he's been a great player for us and we really sad about his injuries. How is he getting on? Because we'd all love to see him 100% fit again and playing.
Well, I'm like you. I can't wait till he gets back to 100%. He's getting there, Tommy. I keep in close contact with Tommy every day. Conversations with him to see how he's feeling. He's played 2 or 3 23s games, 2 or 3 first team games. He's getting his sharpness back. He really is, and I guess that comes from games. But for him, he's got players playing well in that position as well. So there's real competition, and he's a big player for us when he's 100%. He really is, and he's a big player for the football club. I don't think he's too far away. I really don't. I mean, if he had to start on Saturday, he could do it 100%, and he could come into the thinking. But he is a huge player. He's the captain of the football club. He's a big influence in the changing room. The boys love him. So he's a top player and a top pro as well.
I'm sure we echo those thoughts as well in the room this evening as we turn to this lady at the front. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Jill and it's for Grant. We've got several players closing in on 10 yellows. Is that something that comes into your thoughts on choosing your starting 11 or how players sort of go out onto the pitch?
One thing I'll never take away from the group is the aggression that we've played with this year. I think we have picked up some yellows for no reason. I think we've been quite unfortunate with some of the refereeing decision, and that's not to blame the officials. I'm not here to do that, but I think we've had some soft yellows. Does it change my thinking? No. if it happens, it happens. That's the way I've always lived my life, really, and I'm sure the players are doing that as well. They're not asked to pull out of a tackle, i.e. the Whiteman, Kane, Butler, they're the three who are on 9. If they get suspended, they get suspended, and we deal with that, you know, and that's the reason why we've created this squad that we've got, thanks to the board, and we've got real competition. So if we do miss one of those for a couple of games, we've got adequate replacements to come in and do a job for us.
Excellent, thank you very much for that, Grant. I do believe we have a question just down here. What's your name, sir, and who's your question for?
Hi, my name is Mark. Sorry, excuse the throat, it went to Portsmouth on Saturday. First thing I just want to say is, you know, thanks guys for tonight. We really appreciate, you know, your time this evening as well. But as well, I just want to make a comment about the rest of the staff as well. So fully engaged with the club, the supporters, whether it's the operations team talking to, whether it's the staff in the ticket office, the club shop, the commercial team. Nothing is too much trouble, and I just want to say, you know, thanks to those guys as well. You know, they're the unsung heroes as well. You know, there's actually you guys and the players as well. You know, it takes everybody within, you know, Doncaster Rovers Football Club and Club Doncaster as well, you know, to bring it all together. So I just want to say thanks for that as well. Appreciate it, guys. My question is sort of touching on the under-23s. Obviously, we talked about the playing side for next year. Is there something that the club also needs to do in terms of infrastructure? You know, you see sort of the other clubs that are already playing with that sort of level, you know, the facilities they've got. Is there anything that we need to do in terms of investment that's different for next season?
Firstly, I agree with you, and I think the rest of the staff do deserve a round of applause. And just on the 23s, I think in terms of the infrastructure, we are fully equipped in terms of John Schofield is in with us every single day. Gary McSheffrey, who's a good up and coming coach, you know, and he's thought highly with me and my staff at the training ground most days. So they get, you know, a lot of hours, a lot of coaching. If they don't train with us, they'll train in the morning as a group. If they don't get enough, they'll train in the afternoons. So it's the infrastructure's there for us to have a really good 23s group. And one thing that really impressed me was when we had Everton here a couple of weeks back, who are probably one of the strongest 23s groups in England. Although we had, I think it was two or three first team players played in the game, it was predominantly really young players, and they held their own against some of these players who Everton have bought for maybe £7-8 million, you know. So it's and we probably should have won the game, really. So it's I'm delighted with the strength and depth from the first team to the 23s, and if you want to go deeper in that, the under 18s who have got some, you know, exciting young players coming through there as well.
Sorry, if I could just add to that, the biggest difference that's been made is the recruitment of the personnel now. So, for instance, Grant leads the culture, and you've got some managers in the Football League that basically don't buy into academies. They prefer to have the money for an extra first team player, for instance. So when David and the board recruited Grant, there was as much weighting on players of the future as there was on anything else that we recruited. And I would say, with a bias, there's very few clubs where the board would, for instance, would join the interviews for the academy manager as well. And that's what happened through this. So Andy joined the interviews, David oversaw the process, and Grant and I were fully engaged in the actual interviews themselves because the keeping us honest. So the biggest difference, I would say, is personnel and a determination in the recruitment to get someone who wants to develop Doncaster players to play for Doncaster, and that's the biggest difference.
Lovely, thank you very much for that question there. Just as I make my way round for our final couple of questions this evening, if anybody is wanting any information on potential season ticket prices next season, our Head of Marketing and Communications, Sean Lockwood, will be staying behind afterwards this evening. If you do want to get involved in that, do go and look up Sean as far as season ticket info is concerned for next season. I'm going to go to this gentleman here. Our final question of the night, sir. What's your name and who's your question for?
My name's Andy.
I think it's for Gavin. I'm not sure it's something you can control. Can I just echo all the positivity both on and off the pitch? It's been fantastic to watch, and what a brilliant run club. My question is about away games. You might not have much influence over this, but do you have a system for getting feedback from fans from their experience? And I'm thinking about Scunthorpe in particular. Back in September, I can name the clubs that just do not steward at all. They don't engage with the fans. And I'm talking about, I'm no shrinking violet. It's much like Petty Incident at Scunthorpe. There was about 20 lads, maybe 30 lads who were just kind of looking for trouble. They were perfectly biddable, I can tell you, but they didn't. Sorry? No, Scunthorpe. In September. They didn't Do you have a system for getting feedback? Because they were a health and safety hazard, nobody could see. And in the end, the police had to intervene because they were trying to get at the Scunthorpe fans. But I did think there were lads, they were like, I don't know, 15 to 18. They were a bit what I'd call biddable. They weren't, but they were just allowed to. So do you have a system for kind of, I should have raised it with you earlier, really, but I'm just a bit concerned because we're going there fairly soon, and it distracts from the fact that any of you who were at Scunthorpe, you remember it. So,
can I just say that before the start of the match, when we go to away matches, I speak to the police, I speak to the stewards, and I ask them for the policy for if any of our youngsters came down and stood in front of anybody, because there were people sitting behind who couldn't see. So they said, oh yes, we will move them, we will move them. Well, they didn't. They let them stand down the stairwells all along the front, and then they started this sort of fight with the Scunthorpe fans. But it was the stewards did absolutely nothing. Health and safety, if they'd been there that day, they'd have banned them. It was disgusting, absolutely.
Okay, if I can, I'll answer the question, then I'll pass to Marie to answer the specifics. I'm going to start it by trying to use a positive and talk about Doncaster Rovers, what we've tried to do at home matches, and it's been led by Sean, whereby, for some of the reasons you're talking about, for instance, I think, and Sean will correct me if I'm wrong, we're either the only club in the country or one of a few clubs in the country to have a family area in the away stand. So we've tried really hard with that. Reference to what... No, I'm not there. Yeah. Reference. I just, to be fair, Sean caught my eye, and it made me aware or think how hard this club actually tries to treat away fans well. And you're right that should be reciprocated. What we have got is Tracy in the ticket office works really hard with the away ticket office to say, you know, have you got a quieter area where our fans can sit, and those that want to sit down, those that don't want to stand, and therefore those that do want to stand, if you like, can enjoy that as well. So Tracy works hard with that. And then we've got Marie in the safety team, Sam Fraser, for instance, who Hutch Turner gamekeeper, used to work for the police force. They communicate extensively with the other club, whether it's our risks travelling to find out what's happening with their risk, etc., etc. There was a system in the EFL where we all shared information, but as you say, other clubs, the system fell down because other clubs weren't committed to it, as we were. And where I'm hesitating a bit is that we can give all that information, we can work well with that information, but if another club chooses not to act on it, that's where we struggle. So I'm going to ask Marie to give some specifics, if that's okay, and if there is any further improvements we can make or any light that we can shine.
To be fair, you stole my thunder a bit there. You answered that really well, Gavin. Anyone had thought you were doing my job. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, we know there's challenges at away games. There's a core number of supporters that don't come to home games that we're aware are travelling to away games and affecting, the reputation of Doncaster fans. A couple of examples of things that we've done in addition. We've noted that yes, we can communicate with the away team safety team. One of the things that we have done is we've actually sent some of our stewards to sort of higher risk games. So we started it last season with Grimsby. We've done it again this season with Barnsley. We've sent what we call basically they're our internal spotters. So there are our stewards that really know the fans, they know the supporters, and they can help manage the behaviour by working with the away stewarding team and also the away safety officers. So we do, there's an awful lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. At the end of the day, it's another stadium's operation, and all we can do is provide them with as much information and support as possible to make that event go smoothly.
Lovely, thank you very much for that, Marie, and to Gavin. Sincerely hope it answered the gentleman and the lady's question in the correct way. Okay, folks, well that just about wraps it up for this evening. Just a further reminder, of course, that Sean will be staying behind if you have any questions regarding season tickets for the forthcoming campaign next season. Of course, he will be on hand to answer those questions for you. In the meantime, we'd like to thank our top table, to Terry, to Andrew, to David, and to Grant. A big round of applause for our top table tonight. And of course to you, ladies and gentlemen, for not just your fantastic support this evening, but right the way throughout the season. We've got some big games coming up down here at the Keepmoat. I'm sure we've all got our Crystal Palace tickets, our Peterborough tickets. I'm sure we have, yeah. Saw some very encouraging queues at the ticket office, going down very quickly, of course. But because they do such a sterling job in there. Oh, I've got my shovel with me tonight, goodness me. And it was Scunthorpe. I was on holiday. Ladies and gentlemen, have a safe journey. I will look forward to your company next time. Good night.